Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, it's your boy vicslanghope. And today I want to come talk to you guys about Muslim politics in jail and prison. Because you know, we hear a lot about Muslim this, Muslim that, people turning Muslim for all type of different reasons. So I'm going to get into all that stuff today by the grace of God. So bear with me. Also, I want to say thank you for the people who've been supporting, sharing, liking, subscribing. I couldn't get to where I'm at today without y'all, so I just want to thank y'all. And to the haters, we appreciate you too, because you know the world needs balance. So we need you guys too. So thank you. So back to the story. So Islam is based on 5. So I'm gonna give y'all like, a little brief, context, right? Before I get into like the politics in jail. So y'all could grasp what I'm about to tell you. So Islam is based on 5 pillars, right? And the first pillar is the Shahada, which means to bear witness that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. By the way, Allah just means God in Arabic, right? The God. Al-Illah. It's comprised out of like a prefix and the word, right? So it just means the God in a different language. It doesn't mean nothing out of the ordinary. It's just a different language. Just like saying Dios in Spanish, just like saying Yahweh or however the Jewish people say God. Also Christian Arabs, they say Allah too. So I just wanted to say that real quick. The second pillar of Islam is to pray, right? To offer salah 5 times a day. The third thing is zakat, to pay the zakat, 2.5% of your savings yearly, annually. The fourth thing is to fast the month of Ramadan, if you are able to do so, for 30 days. And the fifth thing is to perform the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, if you are able to do so, at least once in a lifetime. So I just wanted to give you that brief stuff. Another thing I wanted to say is Islam is not the religion of the Arabs, like a lot of people might think, right? It's not an Arab religion. It's the message, yes, it came in Arabic to the messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was an Arab. Of course, the message will come in his language and in the language of his people. But Arabs actually only make about 17 to 20% of the Muslim population. The biggest Muslim country is Indonesia, So, yeah, Indonesia has the most Muslims, and after that follows by India. So there's a whole bunch of Muslims in all different places on this earth. So I just wanted to clear that up too, because that's another misconception. So getting into the politics. Before I get into the politics, I want to read a passage from the Quran. So in the Quran, it says, and hold fast all of you together to the rope of Allah, and do not be divided amongst yourselves. And remember Allah's favor on you, for you were enemies one to another, but he joined your hearts together so that by his grace you became brethren. And you were on the brink of the pit of the fire, and he saved you from it. So this is one thing that's in the Quran, by the way. This is a Quran, a noble Quran. If y'all can see it, it's a noble Quran. Okay, so RIP to the brother that gave me this book, Imam Yusuf. May Allah have mercy on him. Ameen. So this is from the Quran, and from the narrations of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a hadith that states, "You will not enter paradise until you believe, and you will not believe until you love one another." And he says, "Should I teach you how you can love one another?" And they said, yes, the companions. And he said, spread the salam, spread the greeting, assalamu alaikum, spread that amongst each other. And that will cause like love to grow amongst each other. So I wanted to say those 2 things before I got into everything else, because, and there's a whole bunch of other quotes from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Islam, and a whole bunch of other verses in the Quran that I can speak from. But I wanted to mention those things because these are the core things that keeps the Muslim together in prison. The concept of brotherhood, the concept of you don't let nobody violate your brother, the concept of your brother's honor, his property, and his blood is sacred to you. Like, these are the things that Muslims live by. If they don't know nothing else, they know that I'm supposed to protect my brother's honor, his property, and his blood. So these are some of the things that Muslims live by. This is not just Muslims in prison. This is Muslims all over the world. You know, this is a principle. If you read about the stories of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, you will see how they was with each other. You will see how they would give up their lives to each other. You will see how they would look out for each other in a certain way. So I think that the thing is, a lot of people is not used to experiencing like actual brotherhood like that, you know, because of course Islam is gonna have its issues like every other group or religion, but it's the people, right? It's not the doctrine, it's not the what was displayed and given to us. It's just what people are doing, how people are misunderstanding the message, or however they choose to interpret it. So to fast forward, so people in jail, yes, they might turn Muslim for whatever reason. They might be scared. They might really believe. They might really be seeking salvation. And some people, they turn Muslim because maybe they want a not kosher, but maybe they want a halal trait. You know, the halal food, sometimes the options are better than what they give the general population. So sometimes some people say they Jewish just so they could get a kosher meal. So these are the different things that might propel somebody to convert to Islam. And yes, there's always the thing about the danger, right? So one time I was chopping it up with one of like the big homie Bloods, right? That kind of like started the blood movement in the jail system. I believe it was in C73. And me and him was talking. He also happened to be Muslim. So me and him was talking one day, and he was just breaking down to me how, you know, back in the days, like in the 80s, I guess, or in the 90s, he was saying that like when blacks was being attacked and persecuted by like Puerto Ricans and Latin kings and stuff like that, and Spanish people, he was saying that the only black people that were good in jail and prison was the Rastafarians, the Muslims, and the 5%ers, you know? So he mentioned to me that the Bloods didn't really want to be a part of any movement, or other people didn't want to have protection, and they will have to pray, or they will have to do these certain things, right? Because these are religious organizations in a sense. So he explained to me how some of the brothers or the other black folks, they didn't want to have to do some of these things in order to get protection. So, and he was saying that's what propelled them to kind of like start the movement and be looking out for each other and kind of like create something different that wasn't necessarily a religious organization. So this is just the story that he told me. I'm not going to say his name. But anyway, so people turn and for different reasons. And on Rikers Island is different. The Muslim movement is different. But I was in the 4 building. And the thing about the 4 building is that a lot of brothers that are serving time, or they are on their appeals, or they are coming back to get resentenced and are going to court, they come down from upstate. So they might be coming from a max, they might be coming from a medium. But the point is, when you get upstate to do your state time, the Muslim community is way more stronger upstate. So on Rikers Island, it's not really that strong. It's not as strong as it is upstate in some of them prisons. So what happens is in the 4 building, C74, because you have that constant influx of state prisoners coming down, you know, back and forth, they tend to kind of like, the 4 building tends to be a little more structured when it comes to like the Islam than the other buildings, because they have that influx of these brothers that don't play. Like some of them serving 20 years, some of them serving 30 years, and this is the only thing keeping them sane. So because you have that influx, that building remains a certain way. I don't know how it is today, but that's just how it was back then. Now, and like I said, on Rikers Island, the Muslim movement is not as strong. But so one of the things that the Muslims do, right, it's like when you come to them, they will ask you, are you banging? Like I know when I came, they asked me, are you banging? And I was like, no. They might ask you, did you used to bang? You know? And I was like, yeah. They will ask you, what the brother that I was talking to, he asked me, he was like, are you scared? Or are you just doing it because you scared? Like, he was just like, just be real. Like, you got drama, you got beef. Like what's going on? Just put us on. Like, he was like, just be honest. Like, we're not going to turn you back. He was just like, I just want to know what's the scope of your situation. So people could be on point, the people on security, because they got like a little security team, and they got all these different things. So it's a community. You got somebody that deals with the money, you got somebody on security, and you got like a leader. So what we used to call Amir. So this is how the stuff works. It's a little hierarchy, and everybody plays their little roles, right? So they will ask you these things. They'll embrace you though. The one thing they will embrace you. They'll ask you just for precautions, but they will embrace you. So this is the things that was going on. When you get upstate, it's kind of like similar thing, right? They want to know about you. They want to know what's going on. Do you have any problems? People gonna talk regardless. So the thing is this: in jail, news spreads fast. So it's like if you dibbling and dabbling, if you're like Muslim but you're also doing other things, you might be blood still, or you might be Crip still, or you might be gambling still, or you might be using drugs. These are things that are like against the tenets of Islam, right? Like using drugs, like gambling, messing with like homosexuals, stuff like that, right? And this is just, I'm saying homosexuals because it's like kind of like the jail setting. Even in the street, right? It's something that you don't do. But, in the street it would be like, messing with women unlawfully, not being married, stuff like that. So the point is, when you go upstate, it's a whole different ball game. Is a bigger place, is a bigger organization, it's bigger numbers, is a bigger threat. Everything is just enhances when you get upstate to prison. So in prison, the ranks of the Muslims tend to be a little tighter. On Rikers Island is a little loose. It's not as strong. But when you get upstate, it tends to be a little tighter. And, you get your little smell goods, you get your oils, you get your Juma services. You kind of like get that on the island too. You get to go down every Friday. But on upstate, you get more access to go to the room, to the masjid. It's not, an official masjid, but there's a room as a musalla where people go pray and stuff like that. So there's a lot of this thing about like Muslim is like a gang, and Muslim is this and Muslim is that, right? And I just want to clear that up because, for example, Malcolm X. What made Malcolm X a great man? It wasn't the fact that he went to prison. Prison didn't make Malcolm X a great man. Islam did. Being Muslim made Malcolm X a great man. Malcolm X following the tenets of Islam made him a great man. That's what made him a great man. So even like when they exposed the files, the FBI files of the FBI following Malcolm X, it shows that Malcolm X had a upstanding character. Like they exposed when they found Martin Luther King files and some of the stuff that he was doing. It might be allegations, it might be lie, but I'm just showing you how the FBI was watching this man, and they didn't even have no dirt to throw in this man. And they always throwing dirt on our leaders. But the point is that Islam changed Malcolm X and made him the great man that he was. And the same way that happens, there's a lot of people in jail that convert to Islam and become great people. We just don't notice it. We just don't acknowledge it. But that's besides the point. But I'm trying to get into the politics. So in prison, they will usually tell you, they'll ask you questions. You banging? What you doing? Like, what's going on? If you are banging, in some spots, they might tell you, you can still come to Friday services, but you're not part of this community. So they will let you go to Friday services because they can't deny you. Like, you can make a whole big deal about they're not letting you go to Juma. In some places, they're not letting you go down there. But in some jails, it depends. They really can't deny you from getting your religious service. But they will let everybody know, like, this dude right here, like, if you decide to stay with the gang, like, they'll be like, this dude right here, he not one of us. Like, he Muslim, yes, but he not part of the community. And they will tell brothers in the community, don't get involved if you see a situation with this dude, because they trying to safeguard the rest of the community. So when brothers are dealing with drugs, when brothers are messing with like homosexuals, when brothers might be gambling, when brothers might be they stealing, when they might do things that are against like the tenements of Islam. And in prison, you can't be playing those type of games, and you got to be mindful of who you're around, because sometimes a dude might be your brother in Islam. He might be your blood. He might be your Crip. He might be whatever he is. But again, you don't know what people be into. You don't know what type of fishy stuff people be doing. So you got to be careful and it's mindful to know who you have around you. So these are some of the politics of Islam in jail, right? Like, you still gotta hold your brother down. Like, I read y'all those things from the Quran and from the ahadith, the sunnah, the traditions of the Prophet. So people think it's a gang because it's a brotherhood that is like tight, because it's really you're following what the religion has legislated for you. So if your religion is legislating for you to protect your brother's blood, property, and honor, to do not be divided, to be brothers, this is what people are adhering to. But because some of us don't really know what brotherhood looks like, or we never experienced it, or we never had somebody really like care for us or really like us, or whatever the case might be, I feel like people just be throwing around like, oh, they a gang, they be doing this. And don't get me wrong, there might be some individuals who still be dibbling and dabbling. Of course you're gonna have that. You're gonna have the gangster brothers. But there always been gangster brothers. They maybe didn't call them gangster back then, but there's always been warriors within Islam. There's always been commander of armies. There's always been people who kind of like protected their religion. And if you look in the Muslim world, that has, it has fallen down, it has fallen apart, and we are struggling today. But in prison, it kind of like runs the same. You have an imam, you have an amir. Amir is usually the jail imam, the prison imam. So a lot of times we don't really listen to the imam that comes from the street. We respect them and we listen to them. But a lot of times the person that runs the spot is the jail imam. So, every spot got a jail imam. And people will say like, all right, that's like the OG, the big Ak, the big Muslim. So it'd be the Amir. He'll have like his little security team. The security team is not just for him. The security team is for the community. And then you have the rest of the community. You might have the librarian. I used to be the librarian upstate. And then I also became kind of like the Amir, or people wanted to put me in the Amir position. So that's a whole nother story. A whole conflict came out of that. Like, it was just, I got a whole bunch of stories into that. But right now I'm just talking about like some of like the brief politics things. And there's a hierarchy. The Amir, security team, you got the librarian, you might have the finance person, and then you got like an oil use person that sells the oil use, the smell goods. That's how they make their money. They oil use and they soaps and stuff like that. And you have a person appointed for that. So that's how the organization gets money. And money for like the festivals, for the Eid and stuff like that. So that's basically it. And then you have like the regular people in the community. But just because you're not on the security team don't mean you don't get it in. You always got brothers that are always waiting for a situation because they believe wholeheartedly in this. And you got to understand, you got a lot of older brothers who got life, who this is their salvation, just like it was Malcolm X's salvation. And Malcolm X got to come home. That's the difference. But it's a lot of brothers in there who got a whole bunch of time, who are on some, they gonna lay their life down because they believe, like, this is their belief. Like, we gonna go to paradise if we defend this, if we live upon this. So that's like the mindset of some of these brothers. And that's why Upstate is run a little more tight, because you got brothers who is not gonna play with you. So if you're young and you coming in there with this mindset of, at the end of the day, you can see who's who. You always gonna be able to see who is a Muslim, who is really into this, who is really practicing, who the religion is, because your character reflects the religion. Your character, your behavior, your morality, it increases. You start doing different things. You start changing. But the thing is, sometimes people view, because you chill, you lay back, they view that as oh, he's a coward. And a lot of times that's the misconception in jail and prison, that this dude turned Muslim because he's scared. And that be, and I think that's like the biggest thing for like people that come from the streets, because a lot of us got egos. A lot of us did things because of egos. And I think one of the biggest things for people that's trying to change their life around in jail and prison that might convert to Islam, one of the biggest things is that people have this misconception that you were scared, that you have problems, somebody was trying to do something to you, so, and this is, I guess, man, we just grew up in a world where we listen to a lot of gossip. We have a lot of misconceptions. Not to say that there's not a lot of people that do that. And yes, there is a lot of Crips that do it. I also seen Bloods that did it. I also seen Kings that did it. I also seen people that have rape charges who did it. So people do be doing that because they want to be good. But I always say this to people. I'd rather somebody turn Muslim than turn blood, than turn Crip, than join any one of them other gangs or stuff like that, because the gang is only going to be detrimental. It's only going to take away from you and your greatness, or achieving greatness, or moving in a different direction. It's only going to put you backwards. It's only going to put you more in a mix of maybe more crime, maybe more danger, maybe more mischief. And I think that's the difference. I think that people will frown upon somebody trying to change their life or whatever. And sometimes you do come into the fold scared at first. Sometimes because God chooses who he pleases for his religion. Sometimes he brings people into the religion and they be scared at first. And then next thing you know, those be some of the people that be most devoted to the religion. And those be some of the people that come home and do right by their families and do right in their communities. So people can always change. There's always hope. As long as there's hope, man, people can always change. People can always be better. People sometimes come in scared and then, they get courage, right? So I don't know. I'm not here. It's not my place. I know why I did it. I'm not here to try to mind my business and try to figure out why you did it, why he did it, why they doing it, they scared. So a lot of times it's just something to talk about. And, I had to be real strong at times. And sometimes I really wanted to hurt dudes behind talking about me. It wasn't so much what they were saying. It was just why you even talking about? In prison, one thing you don't do, you don't gossip. And some of these dudes might have had homies that, were high ranking in the gang, or they had brothers that were in the gang, or they had people that was protecting them in the jail. Certain people always come to jail, they just know people, and they don't really get touched because of that. But those people will always be the ones that be just gossiping, they just be running their mouth, they just be doing the most. But that's about the Muslim politics. I'm trying to see if I'm forgetting anything, because it's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on. But that's the main thing. The main thing is Islam is a brotherhood because it was legislated by God and his messenger for us to stick together and be united. So that's why people move the way they move. Now, as far as why they became that, that's not really my thing. I know they try to do their best to investigate and make sure you're sincere, but we can't tell nobody's sincerity. Only God can. So hopefully y'all benefited from the video. Like, comment, subscribe, share. And let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Well, y'all be good out there. Peace.